Okay, everybody, for those of you that don't know, my name is Michael Forrest, and welcome to I Am Possible. Before we get going, I'm going to ask if everybody can stay off of this top step here. This way nobody really blocks the display, and it gives me a little room to move around, do the whole hosting thing, right? Now, if I can direct your attention to the menu wheel in the lower left, you're going to notice there's a microphone icon at the very top of that. When that microphone is clear, that means we can hear what's happening in your environment, so I've gone ahead and I've turned it to red. This way, if you have any background noise, we're not going to hear any of that. Or if you have like a barking dog or something, you're not going to face social ruin back at the campfire by becoming known as the avatar that started barking during the event. Now, if I could, but just because you're muted does not mean you can't participate. You're going to notice that there is a pink cheek smiley face in your lower left there on your menu wheel. And when you press it, your emoji panel opens up in front of you. So if I say, somebody up here, they're telling a story and they tell somebody, something really deep and meaningful and you feel it building up inside, you can just let it out and go to love, right? Maybe somebody tells an exciting story today where they're swinging across with quicksand, Tarzan style, and it's really cool. You can throw up your paws and you're like, yeah, swing on it, fine, that's cool. Maybe somebody says something that really resonates with you, you want to smile, somebody's telling a sad story, they can go like this. Or maybe they tell something funny, you can use a silly face to feel that you're laughing. And then there's this. Right? This is not how you raise a hand and ask a question or get on my list. This is how you let me know that there's a problem, right? For example, if, I'm waving my hands around, it looks like I'm talking, but you guys aren't hearing anything. That's the kind of time you want to use something like that. If I see one of them go up, I'm just going to keep on going. But if I see like 5 of you doing it, then I know there's a real problem I need to address, like maybe the screen burst into flames, which, we really should have thought that slide out a little bit better. I use that bit a lot. Could have, put a little more thought into that. You can press the X to close the emoji panel, but it's a good idea to leave it open during events like this because it gives it, it's a good way to give feedback. And, also it lets the people around you know what you're experiencing. So if somebody next to you is going like this, that means they think whatever's going on right now is kind of funny. And you may not agree with that. You may be like, oh, I don't think that's funny at all. I'm going to go stand over here. And you can do that because this is VR. All right. Now, you may be wondering what this event is about. All right. We started this event a few months ago as a one-time thing. Right. We weren't going to, keep going. It was just, a one-off. And what we were doing was, we thought, the world was a very negative place. We wanted to, inject some positivity into it. And we were hoping that people would come here, right? And, maybe they were, facing like they were in a difficult relationship or they were, facing a challenge at work or at school or something like that. And, that they would come here and they would hear like a story or something like that would inspire them to keep on going, because very often you just have to push a little bit further and that gets you on the other side of things. I have a long history with the word impossible. I don't care for it. I don't like it, and, I don't really believe in it, actually. I've recently read that impossible is a word that we use for something that we haven't done yet. Right now, the way this is going to work is I'm going to make a raise hand button appear on your lower right, as if I'm Matt. There we go. And now, if you have a story that you'd like to share that's either your own or maybe somebody you know, or maybe a story you read, it doesn't even have to take place in the real world. It could be something you did in VR, like you didn't think you could build a world, and you could, anything like that. Now, basically any story where you or someone have, overcome the odds or did something that you yourself or the people around you didn't think it could be done, right? Where you basically did what you thought was impossible, and we hear stories like that. I see your hand going up there, Wesley Jr. That's not going to get you unless you got to press that raise hand button in the lower right if you want to, do that, okay? But yeah, and since pauses are the natural enemy of an all space event host, if nobody gets on my list, I will keep on going, telling you the type of stories that I'm talking about. And the first one I'm going to give you is basically how I became to, get to a place where I, didn't like that word impossible. What happened was when I was a kid, I was getting bullied a lot one summer, and I was getting chased down this alleyway every single day, and they'd always get me, they beat me up and stuff. And they tell me that, listen, you're never going to escape. It's impossible. You're never going to do it. It's just not going to happen. And I started to give up. I started to just accept it. I'd get beat up, and that was my day. It kind of stunk. Didn't like it. And my dad at the time, he owned a bar, right? And one day this guy comes in, and as a tip, he says, he asked me, do you have any children? He goes, yeah, I got 2 sons at home. And he says, okay, well, they might enjoy this. And he lifts up a bag and he puts it up on the bar, and it's a stack of these Batman comic books, right? And I think my dad looks into the bag, right? And I think he was hoping there'd be money in there. He looks inside of it, right? And it was not a stack of cash, it was just a stack of comics. So he brings it home, and I'm up late, keeping unusual hours, and he slides one of these comics under the door, right? And I read it, but I didn't read this like, you normally read a comic. I read this like an instruction manual, right? And I took and I got inspired by it. I took an old, backpack, and on the side, I made it so the bottom opened up, and I restitched it, and I filled it with marbles. Now, the next day when these kids were chasing me down the alleyway, right, I pulled on that drawstring, all the marbles, they clanked out all over the concrete, right? And, and I just kept running, right? And I made it for the very first time. I made it to the back garages. I climbed up on top of the garage and I looked down the alleyway. And what did I see? But all these kids were laying on the ground. They'd all fall down on the marbles and they couldn't get back up. They kept falling. And I just started laughing. But then I stopped laughing because I realized I did what they said couldn't be done. They said it was impossible for me to get away, but I did, right? It had never happened before. And then I started thinking, that word doesn't mean what people think it means, right? And I thought people had to know. So what I did was I went to the library, right? And when I got in the library, I took out every dictionary I could find in that building. And all right, the statute of limitations are up. I can reveal this. I crossed out and I put the word impossible in every single dictionary there. And ever since then, I just don't accept that word, right? Ever. Let's see, I have somebody on the list. We're going to give the floor over to Wesley Jr. Wesley Jr., you have a story for us. What's going on, Wesley?
I don't really have a story, but I was
That's
wondering
okay.
what that these over
What's the
here.
one? These buttons here are something that we also thought was impossible for a long time. You see, I didn't have a computer or anything like that, just with a tablet and an Oculus Go is where I started working on this stuff. During my events, we usually end up where, we take everybody flying when the event is over. We go to the Ravenhall Flight Academy, right? And I thought it would be a really cool effect because we used to connect the spaces by having like a drone out with a portal coming out on the bottom, right? And I thought it'd be a really cool effect if that drone could fly in. But then when we take everybody flying, people would ask us, can you fly these ships? And I used to say, no. And I hate saying that because it makes it sound like I'm using that word impossible again. Don't like it, don't care for it, right? Refuse to accept it. So what I did was I kept working on this stuff. I was like coding in a text editor, just on a tablet there. Eventually I did get a computer. I was, modeling any way I could, and I just kept trying. And eventually we got to a point where we made the ships at the Academy flyable. You can actually fly these things now in alt space, right? Also, when you press this top button here, right, what happens is one of these hovercrafts that we made actually going to fly up over that wall and fly over the sky like this, over the forum, and then down over on that landing pad, right? And then that takes us, it's a cool transition. And now we finish all of our events that way. That screen door effect, we actually have one fly in. All of our events now have this. And it's a great way to finish things. People really do enjoy it, even the world you're standing in, we once thought this was impossible. This was built on an Apple iPad and a laptop that couldn't run Unity for more than 15 minutes before it crashed, right? We used the word impossible a lot while we were building this. Fury, my wife and I, we were, building this together. And now we ended up with the Ravenhall Forum where we can gather under the stars and tell stories. That's not sad at all, Ethan. That's great news. You're standing in the fire. I'd be sad too. That looks like it's really painful. Looks like it's extremely painful. All right, but yeah, that's let's see. We also have somebody else on the list here. Let's see. We have Wyatt. Wyatt, what's up? You got a story for us? Where are you, Wyatt? Wyatt.
No, I have a
Here.
question.
What's that?
So you was talking about like a hovercraft or something. Is it
Yes.
like a specific model or something?
A specific model. Well, we actually made the model ourselves from scratch, and you're going to see it probably in about less than 20 minutes now. When this event's over, we're going to, close that way. You're going to get to see it, fly over, and we end all of our events that way. And you can actually fly them at the Ravenhall, Flight Academy. So yeah, you can check that out. But we didn't use a specific model. We actually made it from scratch, and it was inspired from, shows I used to watch as a kid, like Battlestar Galactica, the Viper, the X-Wing fighter in Star Wars. And there was, I don't know if anybody remembers this, but there was a cartoon called G-Force, right? That the colors came from. So, it's like, all just inspired from that kind of stuff. And we just threw it together and we think it looks pretty cool. The blades move and it makes an engine noise and all this kind of stuff. And if I keep talking about it, I'm going to have to show you guys early. So let's see. Whoa, what's that? Hey, Wesley, what did I say at the beginning about staying off the stage? Not on the top step. Got to stay clear. All right. Let's see here what we have here. No, walked in and it startled me in VR. Wow, okay. Let's see why it's still on the list. Okay, so the list is clear. So as I said, I'm not going to pause it all. So I'm just going to tell a story that I know. I can't even close the panel here. It's not cool. All right, there we go. All right, but again, if you want to get on the list, if you want to share a story that's your own or someone you know, or maybe something you've read, just press that raise hand button. It'll get you on the list. In the meantime, I'm going to tell another story that one of my favorites actually. In the early days of the U.S., when they were, when the gold rush was on and they had all these prospectors looking for gold, there was an old miner that came into possession of a mine, and he went in there every day and he worked himself really hard. And at the end of the day, he'd go into town, he'd go to the saloon there, and get unwind a little bit. And every day there was a guy that would come up to him and he'd say, "Listen, I'll take that mine off your hands for you." And the guy would say, "Oh no, there's gold in that mine. I can feel it in my bones. All right, I'm never going to sell it." right? And then every single day, this guy came up to him, and every single day, this guy just wouldn't take no for an answer. He kept asking over and over again. And then one day, the miner had one of those days, I'm sure we've all had days like this where nothing was working, nothing was going the way it should. His pickaxes were broken, his dynamite fuses were wet, nothing was going right. And what happened was he, walked into the saloon, and the man walked up to him before the guy could even ask. He goes, "All right, fine, I'll sell it to you." Right? So he sells him the mine, and a few days later, the miner comes in and he sees the man he sold it to in there, and he's all happy and he's celebrating. He's buying everybody drinks, right? He's all lit up. And so the miner asks him, he says, "What's the occasion?" And he goes, "Well, we found gold in that old mine I got from you." Right? And so the miner, like, he hangs his head down low and he's like, he's like, "All right, you got to tell me, how close was I?" And the guy goes, "Well, we only dug about 3 feet." Now, of course, as you can imagine, this upset the miner a great deal. And what happened was, for the rest of that miner's life, all he did, like every single time that he faced impossible odds, every time he felt something that he thought he could not do, what he did was he just, kept on pushing, because he kept telling himself over and over again, "I'm just 3 feet from gold." Right? And life's a lot like that. When you're facing something really difficult, when you're facing something you don't think you can get on the other side of it, sometimes you just have to push just a little bit extra, and that's enough to get you through. All right, now, if anybody has any stories they'd like to share, just press that raise hand button. It doesn't have to be your own. It can be someone you know. We have Gail, 10354. Gail, you have a story for us? Where are you, Gail? I don't see you, Gail. Where are you at? Okay. Maybe press that button by accident. That can happen. I don't see you there. Okay. I'm going to take you off the list there. All right. You were the only one on the list, so I'm going to keep on going. Let's see what we have here. All right. So there's another one that I particularly like, and this took place in the early to mid 80s, right? 1980s. There was a couple, and they had a small boy who was around 4 years old, and at the age of 4, he could already speak 3 languages. He was very, his parents were naturally very proud of him. He was a very special kid. And one day, gradually this boy started slurring his words. He started bumping into things. He started knocking things over, right? And the parents, they could just tell something was wrong. He wasn't acting like himself. He just started school around then. He's started getting fights with other children and stuff. It just didn't seem like him. So they took him to the doctor, and the doctor told him, the father traveled around a lot. You're taking the boy on trips. Maybe picked up a parasite or something like that. One of these countries that you're going to. And they didn't accept that. They kept having him test it, and because it just wasn't getting any better. He seemed to be getting worse. And so eventually he was diagnosed with a disease that I have no business trying to pronounce. All right, it's commonly known as ALD. And what happened was when they gave the diagnosis, they gave him the parents. They gave him a number of a support group, and they sent them home basically to watch their son die. Right, but the parents, they said no. They didn't accept it. And the doctor said, "Listen, you need to really come to terms with this and enjoy the time that you have left, because this isn't going to get any better." And and sure enough, it just kept getting worse. But the parents refused to accept it. They kept going to like the library, and they started. Now you got to keep in mind they had like a high school education with regard to math and science, right? And so they started reading medical journals about animal experimentation, and they started looking over this stuff. And what happened was they gradually learned the languages of math, of science, of chemistry, and they started understanding more and more. And they came across this oil, and the parents seemed to believe that it was really going to help. And what happened was they started to introduce it into the son's diet. And what happened was the disease started to slow. All right, so they got very excited, and they went to the doctors, and the doctors were like, "Listen, you guys, you're lay people, you don't understand science. This is like quack medicine. Don't put your hope into this. It's never going to work." But again, they said no. They refused to accept this. They started writing all these chemists, and this is back in the days before emails. They had to actually write letters and make long distance phone calls and all this stuff. It was a very expensive endeavor, but they contacted over 100 different chemists. And one particular chemist, from the day he was about to retire, it was his last day. Right, this letter comes on his desk from this couple, and they look. He looks at the letter, and he says, he writes him back, and he says, "Listen, I'll make this for you." Right, he was so touched by the letter, he decided to stay on. He said, "I'll make this stuff for you. We're gonna have to call it something." So what he did was they named it after his son. They called it Lorenzo's Oil. They even made a movie about this. And what happened was they made the oil, right, and it slowed the disease to the point where instead of having just a couple of years left, he lived to the age of 28, where he eventually died of pneumonia because some damage had been done by the disease early on before they found this stuff. But they didn't stop there. They shared this findings with anybody that had the markers in the blood were able to take this oil and hold the disease off from ever, presenting itself. And all the while, the doctors were still saying it wasn't possible. And then eventually, when the man lost his wife, doctors eventually said, you know what, there is something to this. And, they were able to change the course of thousands of lives simply because they said no, simply because they refused to accept the word impossible, simply because they kept going, right? And they were ordinary people, just like us, and they were able, even the space that we're standing in here 20 years ago, nobody would have thought this was possible, All right, everybody. Let's see. So, if anybody has any kind of story they'd like to add or get on there, just press that raise hand button in that lower right. Otherwise, we'll keep on going. Let me see. I see somebody on the list. We have Wesley Jr. What's going on, Wesley? Where are you, Wesley? There you are. What's up?
So, it's like a story about bullying, and some
Okay.
kid was getting bullied in my class, and
Oh,
so
that's
I
no fun.
stood in for them, and
Yeah.
basically, we threw like punches and stuff, and the kid like quit, and then the next day, I apologized to him, and he apologized back, and
Oh, wow.
and I got suspended for like a few days, but at least I protected one of my friends.
Yeah, I mean, you stood up, and sometimes, you can get negative consequences when you stand up. But it only takes one person to make it somebody's life. It speaks well of your character. I bet you the guy or girl that you stood up for, probably thought you were a hero. Which is kind of awesome. All right, let's see. We have Wyatt. Wyatt, you want to get in on this? Let's see. Hit that button there. Wyatt, what's up? Where are you, Wyatt?
Right here.
Hey, Wyatt, what's going on?
So, this was about 2 years ago, I think. I was in 5th grade. So I was riding my hoverboard and I was riding it incorrect. And I wrecked into the chair and I thought nothing happened.
Yeah.
This might be kind of bad for little kids, so if you don't want to think about this, then cover your ears.
Okay.
So I
But how
looked
will
on
I
my
hear your
hand.
story, man? How will I host if
I
I have my
looked.
ears covered? Okay.
Oh my gosh, that's between my eyes. So I looked at my index finger, or
Hmm.
and my fingernail was the bottom of it was bent, and my bone was
Ooh.
sticking out of my finger.
Oh no, this is one of those stories. Okay.
Yeah.
This happens from time to time.
Um,
Okay.
and then uh, a day before I pulled the fire alarm, even though I don't think I did. I pushed it, but it's supposed to be pulled, so I still believe that I did not do that. But
Okay.
apparently they suspended me for a day, and then we had a school delay, and I got another day off, so that gave me another day to recover.
Well, that worked out. Well, wait. You had the bone. You saw the bone. How'd you close it up?
Um, so they put stitches, they put me on drugs apparently. They
All
put me to
right.
sleep, kind of, not
Yeah.
major, but they
Wow.
they put stitches around the finger,
Yeah.
and then trying to remember. Um,
Okay.
they put a big cast on it, and there's this
Hmm.
metal rod thing on the front of my finger,
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, and then about 2 months later, I had to go get the stitches removed, and now I have a permanent bump or a little dent on my finger.
Oh, but is it? You can still use it?
Yeah, I can still use my finger. It's
All
pretty
right. Good.
healed, but now I have a permanent bump on my finger.
Okay, but you also have a story. Sometimes scars make the best stories. And they make you
Yeah.
a stronger person for it, which is pretty cool. Thank you for sharing it. I forgot to mention something earlier on. Actually, for the longest time, we've been trying to get these out on YouTube, and I always feel bad about it because sometimes people, share personal stories and stuff. So just to, be aware that we are filming this. If anyone has shared something, they'll be like, "Oh no, I wish that's getting out." Just tell me after, and we'll cut it out. We'll remove it from the footage there. Wesley, if you have a question, just press that raise hand button. Let me see. Yeah, just press that raise hand button on the lower right. And we'll get you on there. Let's see here. All right, Wesley. What's up, Wesley?
Is this floating person right here a camera? Like one of the
That is
cameras?
the camera. If everybody right now wants to wave out to YouTube, let's do that. Everybody face Raven Eye up here. Oh, you can't see the name tag. Oh, that's all like ominous. That's not cool. But yeah, the person floating up there is not actually a person with a camera. If everybody wants to wave right now, the wave on. Might even have to go back a little bit so we get in the shot, come out behind the fire, and be like, hey, YouTube, how's it going? What's going on? I'm Michael Forrest, and he's here. These are my people. Let's introduce everybody a little bit. We got King Kong. King
Hello.
Kong, sorry. We got Wyatt. We got Alice. We got Emily. We got Wesley Jr. here who asked the question. We got Anthony Wade. We got all kinds of people in all space. Come on in and join us. All right, now let's see. Who else do we have here? We have somebody else on the list. Still Wesley. Okay, so no. All right, I'm going to actually share because, like I said, I have I don't in all space host does not like the pauses, but actually I see Henry's show. I'm not sure if the whole cuts off the name there. Where are you, Henry? Let's see. Where are you, Henry? Where are you, Henry? Henry, where are you? Okay, maybe you pressed the button by accident. That's possible too, because I'm not seeing you anywhere. Hey, where for you? Where? Right there. Oh, you were behind me the entire time. All right, you still are muted. Actually, you're gonna have to press that button there. Let me try that again. All right, Henry, you should be good now. What's going on?
Yeah, no, sorry, I pushed it by accident. I was like,
Oh, that's okay. That happens all the time. That's like
Revenue.
a very common occurrence in all spaces.
Sorry.
Don't even worry about it. All right. So let's see. So we have nobody on the list right now. So I'm going to tell another one. Let's get another hand bowing up in there. Dennis. Okay. It's not how we ask questions. If you want to be on the list, press the raise hand button in your lower right. All right. Now I'm going to share another one. This one goes back to my late teens where, I was just starting to get into camping and hiking and all that kind of thing. And what happened was, there was a big rainy season where we were going, and it was upstate New York, and there's this lake, and there was all this rain that happened about a month before we went. And when we went there were all these like waterfalls coming down into the lake. It was beautiful, and we went out to explore it. And what happened was my friend Chris, he was standing up there on the rocks at the top of the waterfall, and I went up to join him, and he slipped on a wet rock, and he just started battling toward the falls, like the current swept him away. Swept them right into my legs, and then both of us, kind of just shot out over the waterfall. We dropped down about 12 feet into the lake, right? And we came up and we were laughing because nobody was hurt, it seemed okay. And then we swam over to the bank, and we're trying to get back up on the shore. But every time we did, this huge clumps of like mud were just coming into the water, and we just couldn't get back on land, right? So we looked across and we saw this giant boulder where our campsite was, and we figured, it's not that far. We'll just swim for it. But fully dressed and wearing we didn't even have proper hiking boots. We were wearing like construction boots. They looked like hiking boots though. We were very stylish, but we were facing like a really tough situation there. So we swam out, and about halfway through, Chrissy turns to me and he says, Mike, I don't think I'm going to make it, right? And I look back and I think about it, and I'm like, all right, well, we're halfway there. So if we swim back, we're going to be right back at that waterfall with no way to get up, no supplies and no help, right? So I convinced Chris to keep on going. So we kept pushing, and we're every time I felt like giving up, he would say, he'd talk positive. He's like, just dig in, keep pushing, And then when he was discouraged, I kept saying it back, And what happened was we just kept on going, and eventually, it was close. There was moments where we didn't think it was possible, but we just kept pushing, and eventually we got to the other side. We pulled ourselves up on those rocks there, right? And we kind of collapsed. We even stayed an extra day just to get to recover from this, it was kind of a big deal. We didn't think we were going to do it, and we didn't think we were going to make it, but we actually did get to the other side of it. It was pretty awesome. Now we are coming at the end of time, but I want to make sure I give let everybody know that you've been a good audience, and I want to thank you all for joining us today. If you enjoyed today, if you enjoy our content, please go to altvr.com and you'll see where it says channels. You'll see our event channel there. It's Ravenhall Events, like it says on that back wall. And if you press it there, you'll see our event page there. You can join our Discord if you want to help us put on events like this, or you'll also see the most important button on the internet. You'll see the subscribe button. And if you press the subscribe button, it lets Allspace know that you enjoy our content. We don't get paid to do this, so every time we see that number go up, it makes us feel good. It's a great way to say thank you if you've enjoyed today. Usually at the end of our events, we take everybody flying to the Ravenhall Flight Academy, but now we have a new thing where we're going to go out in style. All right, you see this red button here? I'm going to press this button, and when I do, one of our Talon hovercrafts, which you can fly at the Ravenhall Flight Academy, you can fly it when we get there, is going to come up over this wall here, and it's going to fly right across the forum, nice and low, with these engine sounds and these spinning blades, and it's going to come down on that platform over there. And yeah, it's a cool effect. So let's hit that and enjoy it. I'm gonna unmute everybody because if everybody is saying wow and stuff, I want to hear that. You know, so because I did that last time, it was pretty cool. All right, pressing in the button.
Ravenhall Talon aircraft en route to your position.
Now what? Directly
Please
attention to
stay
that
clear of the
platform.
landing pad. Thank you.
Here it comes. Right up. Actually, where is it? There it goes. All right, here it coming now. It's coming. There we go. All right, now it's going to touch down on this landing pad here. And when it does, you'll see the blue light come out of it. Again, you can fly this at the
Talon
Ravenhall Flight
aircraft
Academy.
is now boarding for transport to the
There we go.
Ravenhall Flight Academy. Please step
All right,
into the
thanks for
blue
coming,
light.
everybody. And remember,
Thank
while I
you.
don't believe in the word impossible, I do believe in you. Yes. You can find us by going to Ravenhall Events or Ravenhall Labs. Search either one of those and you'll see our channel on YouTube. All right. See you all next time. Thanks for coming.